In this video, I'm going to be looking at the ideas of the anarchist thinker and revolutionary Mikhail Bakunin concerning unions. Most of the left in Britain view the present structures of trade unions in a positive light. This is true for Social Democrats and many Leninist organisations. These people wish to capture or retain control of the unions pretty much as they stand in order to use them for their own purposes. As a result, there are frequently bitter conflicts and manoeuvrings for control within the unions. Bakunin laid the foundations of the anarcho-syndicalist approach to union organisation and recognised the general tendency of non-anarchist unions to decay into personal fiefdoms and bureaucracy over a century ago. Arguing in the context of union organisation of the period within the International Working Men's Association, he gave examples of how unions can be stolen from the membership, whose will they are supposed to be an expression of. He identified several interrelated features which lead to the usurpation of power by union leaders. Firstly, Bakunin indicated a psychological factor which plays a key part. Honest, hard-working, intelligent and well-meaning militants win through hard work the respect and admiration of their fellow members and are elected to union office. They display self-sacrifice, initiative and ability. Unfortunately, once in positions of leadership, these people soon imagine themselves to be indispensable and their focus of attention centres more and more on the machinations within the various union committees. The one-time militant therefore becomes removed from the everyday problems of the rank-and-file members and assumes the self-delusion which afflicts all leaders, namely a sense of superiority. Given the existence of union bureaucracies and secret debating chambers in which leaders decide union actions and policies, ruling elites arise within the union structures, no matter how democratic those structures may formally be. With the growing authority of the union committees, etc., the workers become indifferent to union affairs, with the exception, Bakunin asserts, of issues which directly affect them, such as dues payment, strikes, and so on. Unions have always had great problems in getting subscriptions from alienated memberships. A solution which has been found is the check-off system by which unions and employers collaborate to remove the required sum at source from the pay packet. Where workers do not directly control their union, as Bakunin thought they should, and delegate authority to committees and full-time agents, several things happen. Firstly, so long as union subscriptions are not too high and back dues are not pressed too hard for, the substituting bodies can act with virtual impunity. This is good for the committees but brings almost to an end the democratic life of the union. Power gravitates increasingly to the committees, and these bodies, like all governments, substitute their will for that of the membership. This in turn allows expression for personal intrigues, vanity, ambition and self-interest. Many intra-union battles, which are ostensibly fought on ideological grounds, are in fact merely struggles for control by ambitious self-seekers who have chosen the union for their career structure. This careerism occasionally surfaces in battles between rival leftists, for example, where no political reasons for conflict exist. In the past, the Communist Party offered a union career route within certain unions, and such conflicts constantly arose. A route still used by members of various political parties today. Within the various union committees, which are arranged on a hierarchical basis mirroring capitalism, One or two individuals come to dominate on the basis of superior intelligence or aggressiveness. Ultimately, the unions become dominated by bosses who hold great power in their organisations, despite the safeguards of democratic procedures and constitutions. Over the last few decades or so, many such union bosses have become national figures. Bakunin was aware that such union degeneration was inevitable, but only arises in the absence of rank-and-file control, lack of opposition to undemocratic trends, and the accession to union power to those who allow themselves to be corrupted. Those individuals who genuinely wish to safeguard their personal integrity should, Bakunin argued, not stay in office too long and should encourage strong rank-and-file opposition. Union militants have a duty to remain faithful to their revolutionary ideals. Personal integrity, however, is an insufficient safeguard. Other institutional and organisational factors must also be brought into play. These include regular reporting to the proposals made by the officials and how they voted. In other words, frequent and direct accountability. Secondly, such union delegates must draw their mandates from the membership being subject to rank-and-file instructions. Thirdly, Bakunin suggests the instant recall of unsatisfactory delegates. Finally, and most importantly, Bakunin urged the calling of mass meetings by ordinary members and other expressions of grassroots activity to circumvent those leaders who acted in undemocratic ways. Mass meetings inspire passive members to action, creating a camaraderie which would tend to repudiate the so-called leaders. Bakunin based his analysis on unions of the period. As such, his critique of the unions was perceptive and acute, in particular his usual perceptions of the alienating nature of power, as with the increasing bureaucratisation of union officials. Bakunin's thought on the question of workers' organisations and how they should be structured laid the foundations for the birth of anarcho-syndicalism in Spain, France and elsewhere. However, in the 2 centuries after his birth, the integration of the unions into the capitalist system has advanced at a rapid pace. Union leaderships often directly sabotage workers' struggles. Rank-and-file organisation within the trade union and attempts to supposedly democratise the trade unions are no answer to the question of how workers should organise. Successful struggles have been increasingly of the wildcat kind, outside the control of the union leadership, and often organised outside the unions. Where unions have declared strikes themselves, they have either been forced to do so because of the anger and discontent of the membership, or are taking symbolic actions with little chance of victory that will quell the militancy of those in the workplace. Anarcho-syndicalist unions have often been engaged in sharp fights with the employers and the state, with some success, most notably during the Spanish Revolution of 1936 to 1938. They have also not just been confined to the workplace and have also organised rent strikes and have organised unemployed workers. Nevertheless, there is always a dynamic of being forced to mediate in struggles that has led to serious divisions within the syndicalist movement inside specific countries and on a worldwide level. The problem with workplace organising today, aside from anti-union legislation and the prevalence of official reformist unions that fail to take effective action, seems to be that capitalism appears to have successfully restructured the workplace to make it almost impossible to organise workers effectively. Staff turnover in a lot of places is very high. They've expanded the number of supervisors, also known as grasses or snitches, and they've invested in new technology to monitor workers' movements at every step. Plus, a lot of work these days is just pure nonsense, and a lot of workers these days have no real leverage over the wider economy. Bakunin was acutely aware of the dangerous nature of officialdom and how ordinary workers, by taking official positions, could become alienated from their fellow workers. He was less aware of the mediating role of the unions themselves in the fight to secure better paying conditions and the tendency to become controllers of the workforce of labour themselves. He also doesn't appear to have been aware of the problem of substitutionism with formal, supposedly anarchist unions.